tonight we have a really special guest speaker. I'm always so honored when Dr. Rachel Van Pelt will share with us. You guys, she's one of the most researched PhDs, on women's health and soy and healthy aging. And I'll let her tell you guys a little bit more about that. But she's going to share a little bit tonight about healthy aging with Juice Plus Nutrition. So I'm going to turn it right over to you, Rachel.
Great. Thank you, Reagan. It's a pleasure. I actually am going to share. Oh, let me see if I can remember how to share my screen. And because I wanted to, I do have some slides, and let me know if you can see the slides.
Yeah.
Can you guys see?
No, we see Zoom. Hold on.
I can see it, Rachel.
Oh.
I see
Gosh, you see Zoom.
There we go.
Now is it?
Yeah.
You're not seeing PowerPoint yet?
Yeah, we see it now.
Okay. So I'm going to just warn you that I just got the internet I'm in rural Illinois. There's about 2,000 people in the town that we're in. I'm with my in-laws, and it's a wonderful place, about an hour and a half east of St. Louis. But anyway, I'll just warn you. So if it cuts out, I apologize. I hope it won't. But this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, aging well or healthy aging. And, I got excited about Juice Plus because I really saw the potential of how Juice Plus could really be used to help people age gracefully, vibrantly, maximize their health span. And I'll tell you why here in a minute. I think most of you will agree as well. Obviously, we all have our own idea of what healthy aging is. This is if you Google healthy aging on the internet, these are the type of images though that come up. And they're very much the Hollywood glamorized version of healthy aging, I think. But it's not just all about wrinkle creams and Botox and tummy tucks and how we look on the outside, but of course, what we're putting into our bodies and what's on the inside. And just to remind you all, my background is I'm a geroscientist and an integrative physiologist. So what that means is my PhD is in integrative physiology. I spent many, many years, learning how all of the different systems of the human body integrate. So how the musculoskeletal system works with the circulatory system, works with the nervous system, digestive system, immune system, you name it. And as an applied physiologist, I also spent a lot of time learning how things like exercise, nutrition, sleep, chronic disease, and of course, aging impact how these systems work. And as a geroscientist, I'm obsessed with figuring out how to keep people healthy for as long as possible. We think a lot about health span, maximizing health span. For a lot of physiology, we peak in early adulthood and we see nothing but declines with aging, right? But what we would like to do is maximize health span. We'd like to keep people as healthy as we can and have the highest quality of life right up to the end of life. We don't worry as much about lifespan anymore as we do about health span. Some people, of course, study longevity and lifespan, but I am absolutely convinced that the most important thing is that we're keeping people healthy for as long as we possibly can. And so I think a lot about this. Of course, it doesn't look like either of those extremes, the nothing but decline and nothing but perfect health, but it's more like this, right? We have kind of a roller coaster throughout life. And what happens is at some point, we get diagnosed with some sort of chronic disease and we end up in and out of the hospital, and repeated hospital visits, never quite recovering to our previous baseline. And so it's this rapid decline. And I think a lot about taking people's lives from looking like this at the end to more like this. I want us to increase health span, and we can do that. That's where Juice Plus comes in. That's where, you know, good wellness and disease prevention programs come in, that we can really change the trajectory of people's life, keep their quality of life as good as it possibly can be. And obviously, we have lots of products, or what I like to call nutritional lifelines now, that can help with this process. And I think we can all agree that nutrition is a cornerstone of health, and that's where the Juice Plus comes in. If we're eating right, we tend to sleep better. If we're sleeping better, we have better mood, and our mental health is better. If our mental health and our mood is better, we're more likely to get out and exercise. And when we're exercising, we're more likely to eat better. So it all goes hand. Important for all of us who are talking to people about nutrition to remember that it's not about weight loss. Diet, it's not all, food's not the enemy, that we need to eat to stay energized, to fuel our activity. We need to be nourishing our cells and our physiologic systems. And we shouldn't be focused on weight loss, particularly as we get older. And here's why. As we get older, it becomes increasingly important that we're maintaining our lean mass. And if we're losing weight, when we lose weight, always a part of that weight loss is loss of lean mass. So loss of muscle, loss of bone. And these graphs just show declines in lean mass with age in men and women across the lifespan. And you can see, no matter what, even if we weigh exactly the same today as we did 30 years ago, we're going to have less muscle, less bone, and of course, more fat, right? And even more important than the quantity of that muscle and bone is the quality of that bone and muscle. And that, again, is where nutrition comes in. So as we're getting older, I talk about aging, there's no magic time when this just happens. This isn't just happening really early. If you look at that graph, right, the declines that we see are happening very early in life. And it's critical, the earlier we get better nutrition and exercise into our routine, the more likely we are to preserve our muscle and bone. So what happens is, as we get older, the muscle becomes more infiltrated with fat. You'll see over here, right, this marbling of muscle. And that, while that marbling is great if we're eating a Kobe beef steak, we like the marbling for the juiciness of that steak. We don't like it so much in our thighs, right? So if we get lots of fat in our muscle, and those fibers, the actual muscle fibers, begin to shrink, and the fibers are thinner, and so of course we lose strength. And same for bone. The bone, it becomes more porous. There's less structural integrity to that bone. It's more likely to break. And so it's absolutely critical that we are preserving our muscle and bone as we get older. And nutrition is key for that. So both exercise and protein. So one of the reasons I became interested in Juice Plus when I first met Reagan was about the impact of having a good, high quality plant-based protein. So unfortunately, we actually need more protein as we get older, not less. The current recommended daily allowance, the US RDA, is inadequate for older adults. The current recommended daily allowance is about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. To stimulate protein turnover as we get older, we actually need twice that much protein. So what does that mean? So for a 130-pound woman, the current RDA is about 47 grams per day. to stimulate the amount of protein turnover we need to be able to maintain our muscle mass as we get older is we need more like 90 grams per day. That's quite a bit of protein. And so for those of you who don't think about protein every day, this gives you an idea of how much protein is in the different foods we eat. And so you have to eat quite a bit of protein to get 90 grams, right? Edamame, tofu, all these things. You can see that they're the plant-based proteins on the left and the dairy and meat proteins on the right. So particularly for vegans, you have to get a lot of protein from your plant-based foods. And that's where the complete shakes and bars come in handy. A complete shake has about 13 grams in it, and that's before you add any kind of milk or non-dairy product to it. So you can increase that to more like 20. We talk a lot about, using complete shakes, for example, in our shreds as a meal replacement or something like that. I think it's critical for older adults, if we're talking about trying to sustain or retain muscle and bone, that the shakes are really supplemental to the other proteins that they're eating throughout the day. It's not really meant to be an alternative. We really need it. And then the other important thing that we've learned from science over the years is that not only do older adults need twice as much protein, but we need to spread it throughout the day. You can't just eat carbs for breakfast and lunch and try to eat all of your protein for dinner. It's critical that that protein is spread throughout the day. So that means like 30 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or, if you're only getting 15 to 20 grams at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's where having a shake, mid-morning or mid-afternoon is going to help. And the complete bars have good amount of protein in them too. The chocolate has 10 grams and the cherry has 5 grams of protein in them. So that just gives you an idea of how the complete can really be beneficial for us as we get older and trying to maintain our muscle and bone. And then, of course, we all are familiar with this wonderful slide. It's not just about our macronutrient intake, the protein, carbs, and fat, right? But it's about the micronutrient intake that we get as we get older. That becomes, it's just as important, if not more important, as we get older.
How do we?
The thousands of phytonutrients that are found in our whole fruits and vegetables, we just can't get that in a supplement. You can't get that in a vitamin supplement. The calcium, the vitamin C and the magnesium that's in that apple, that's not all that's beneficial about that apple. It's those thousands of phytonutrients, and our bodies can use however many of those it needs at any given time. So our body, even if there might be hundreds of thousands of phytonutrients in our diet, our body might only need a couple thousand of those, but it uses those in a synergistic effect and really is very smart. Our bodies are incredibly smart and know what to do with those phytonutrients. Usually they're not, many of those vitamins are overdose for what we need for various things. So this is incredibly important, and why I think, if you haven't familiarized yourself with all the great science that's out there, I love this summary slide that Juice Plus puts out that shows all of the benefits that have been shown in different physiologic systems from Juice Plus. So we know that it impacts the cardiovascular system in a positive way, the immune system, of course, the microcirculatory system that helps with our gums and our skin, for example. The effects that Juice Plus has on oxidative stress and inflammation can't be ignored. Those are key underlying things for a multitude of problems that we have as we get older. So most chronic diseases, 85 to 95% of chronic disease in the US that is diseases that we used to think of as inevitable consequences of aging, are the underlying processes, impairments in oxidation, too much oxidative stress, and too much inflammation. And so when we can improve that, when we can reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, we can have a wonderful impact on reducing things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all these chronic diseases, many types of cancer, things like rheumatoid arthritis. So it just underlies a multitude of age-related chronic disease. And of course, a DNA repair, that's huge for just our body. And it's not surprising. When I saw the research, to be honest, it's what you would expect from a diet a whole food plant-based diet, or a diet that's high in fruits and vegetables. These are all wonderful things that we get from eating a good diet. So, and then I think Mitro at our last conference did a wonderful job of talking a lot about the gut. The gut microbiome is one of the reasons why nutrition has an impact on so many systems throughout the body. Not only the impact on oxidative stress and inflammation and DNA repair, but many of the effects we see of good whole food plant-based diet and the improvements from Juice Plus come from their effect on our gut. And we're just learning more and more every day about the gut microbiome and how much impact it has on our immune system, our metabolism, our endocrine system. It regulates all these things, our immune cells, for example, and our immune system. It has these direct impacts that improves our ability to fight off infection, it recover from various diseases, the metabolic function. It has wonderful effects on things like glucose metabolism or insulin sensitivity, and then the endocrine system. The gut it affects that through affecting our stress hormones, and our reproduction works its magic through the gut in so many ways. And as we get older, one of the other wonderful things that the gut impacts is our mental health. Many of you may have heard of the term the gut-brain axis, or the fact that our gut is our second brain. Well, it's because our gut and our brain are directly connected through our nervous system, right? There's nerves that run directly to our brain. And when we have poor gut health, we end up with systemic inflammation. So that means inflammation throughout the body, and that includes our brain. And that can contribute to premature degeneration, cognitive decline, so loss of memory, and then that impacts mood as well as energy. So this becomes, as we get older, becomes critically important. Obviously, none of us want to prematurely lose our memory. And if we can slow cognitive decline, that's critical. We can do that through good nutrition and our gut health. And this just shows all the studies that have been done that show the types of foods that people eat, that it's all the things you would expect. All the usual suspects: green leafy vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and berries. So all the foods that we're trying to help people get into their diets are great for their cognitive health. The other way that nutrition affects our brain, it affects it directly through the gut, but it also indirectly through an effect on sleep. So good nutrition, so cellular clocks, we have clock genes throughout our body. We used to think that our sleep and our circadian rhythms were completely controlled by a clock in the brain, but now we know that there are clock genes throughout our body, and they become disrupted when we have a poor diet. So when we're eating obviously when we have things like lots of alcohol and caffeine, that can disrupt our circadian rhythms and those cellular clocks, but also like high fat feeding, high sugar, those kinds of things. And a diet rich in whole food, plant-based diet, so is going to have wonderful effects on those cellular clocks, because they're entrained to feeding and fasting and healthy diet. And when those clocks are working right, we sleep better. When we sleep better, our brain health is better. So nutrition affects our brain through its effect on sleep. And if all that isn't enough for you, it also impacts our mortality rates. So this was a study, there's a study done at University College of London a few years back that in about 65,000 men and women, and they found that the more fruits and vegetables people eat, the lower their mortality rates. 42%, so people who had at least 7 or more fruits and vegetables a day had a 42% reduction in premature death from cancer and heart disease. So I don't know about you, but that's enough to convince me to get lots of fruits and vegetables in our diet. And it reminds you again why the 5 a day that the U.S. still promotes is insufficient. We need, in these studies, the people were getting, that more than 7 per day. So it's all tied together, the nutrition, sleep, mental well-being. I didn't talk obviously about the role of exercise, but just try to focus on the role of Juice Plus. But I think as we get older, the key things for people to continue to age gracefully, age vibrantly, is that we're retaining physical function. All right, we're retaining our muscle and our bones so that we can stay mobile and physically active and getting around and doing things for ourselves. That we're preventing disease, or we're slowing the progression of existing disease. That we're slowing memory decline. That we're keeping people energized so that we can move around. That people can keep creating, innovating, leading, that type of thing. And last but not least, I think it's critical. Keeping people healthy, maximizing health span, helps people preserve their nest egg, because it keeps them out of the hospital, out of the medical system, out of the nursing home. And so that money's not all flowing just to big pharma and major medical companies. That money is staying in their hands. They can use it for, we can use that to fund our bucket list dreams, or to leave it as a legacy to our kids or our favorite charities. I think it's critical that we think about healthy aging in a very broad way, and Juice Plus, quite honestly, I think is a wonderful way to help people to have the highest quality of life and maximize their health span. And so that's my passion. That's why I got involved, and I hope it maybe has an effect. It changes a little bit how you think about healthy aging and how Juice Plus can improve people's lives.